On this episode of Star Trek Universe, we are talking all about Star Trek Discovery 406, right after these words from our mystery sponsors.
Welcome to Star Trek Universe, the podcast where you get to listen in on this continuing conversation two lifelong friends have been having about Star Trek since they were 6 years old. My name's Matthew Carroll.
I'm David C. Robertson. The intro was very Shatner, man.
Oh, you mean stilted and not very good?
Well, yeah, that's what he says happened during the original series, because they would change the script and stuff, and they wouldn't have time, and he wouldn't remember his line.
So some of those pauses were him trying to remember his line. That was definitely what I was doing. Yeah, that was just natural Shatner. That was pulling a Shatner, as it were.
Right. That's how he got big. He was an understudy for Christopher Plummer in like Hamlet or something. And Christopher Plummer wound up getting sick, had to have his appendix out. And he got up there and he was just like, it was his first time really getting out there. And he got so nervous he forgot his lines. And so he just kind of like put his head down and acted like he was contemplating and really like living the scene as like someone else off stage realized what was happening and was like, started to feed him the lines. And he was like, That's so funny. That's amazing. Blah, blah, blah. And then he got like rave reviews. Like, oh my God, this is like the best that anybody's ever done this. This is crazy.
Man, people that listen over the NCU cast may know this, but Jeff has had just been in school this last semester, and he was getting a degree, like some degree in computer stuff, and it's like systems architecture stuff. So I've had to take over a lot of the reading, and I am not good at reading aloud. Like, I'm just not good at reading aloud. It's just not a thing I do well. I'm not good at reading silently either. Don't get me wrong. Just not good at reading is the thing.
Yeah.
But because of that, I've been doing a lot of reading over there, and I don't know. I'm really trying to work on it. Like, I don't know. I got into this whole podcasting thing purely as a hobby for fun, but I'm doing so much of it now that I'm really trying to like hone some of the skills that I've just been like, well, I'm not good at that. So Jeff, you do that part. But now I'm trying to be like, all right, I read. I'm not going to say I'm not good at it and find someone else to do it from now on. I'm going to read these freaking things. So I've been trying. It's been an adventure.
Yeah. I read a lot on DC on screen.
Yeah.
One of my big things is I don't know how much it comes off, but one of my things is like, since I've already put the words on a screen, I have too much of an idea of what's coming next. And my brain wants to jump ahead and make my mouth say those things instead of like where I'm actually at in the sentence. Okay. I hear that. I fumble a bit sometimes, and I'm just like, oh, wait. No, hold on. Let me go back to where I stood. And it takes longer to say than it actually takes to happen, usually in my mind. Right. Where I'm just like, oh, you're getting ahead. Don't say that word. That's not the word yet. Well, this is really getting in the weeds of it. But like, one of my biggest problem when I'm reading is, I'm also the editor of these podcasts. So when I'm reading, whenever I'm recording a podcast, I put down markers whenever there's a mistake so that I remember to go back and fix it. Yeah. And so when I'm reading and I make a mistake, I already have one app open with the stuff I'm trying to read. So I have to switch apps, hit the marker button, and then switch back to continue reading. Oh God. And it's not easy. And when I do it, I always just mess up more. So it really takes a lot out of me. So I really wish I could turn over one of those jobs, but I do need to just embrace the reading. Now that I'm saying it all aloud, the problem that I've been having for weeks, now that I'm actually voicing it, I'm realizing I should just get an iPad for the reading or something, so I can it's like a second screen that's not connected to the same computer, so I can be reading while I still have the recording software open. That's what I need to do. You should definitely spend $1,000 so you can read while you're podcasting. I mean, like, I have an iPad. I just need to like set it up for that. No, man, I get it, man. You gotta have that separate iPad. Yeah, that's true. A dedicated reading stuff iPad. Yeah. I'm sorry, it's just what I need.
Okay, we should probably talk about Star Trek now, right?
Probably. Did you notice this episode was directed by Jonathan Frakes?
I did not.
I always try to notice.
I normally notice just purely based on seeing his name on the screen, but I didn't catch it this time. That's awesome, though. He's just a good director.
He is.
He really is. And like, it's cool to know that, having not noticed it and then watching the episode, and I really thought a lot about how well this one was directed. The use of silence. And I know that's a big part of the episode. I guess we should do a little bit of a recap. This is the episode where they go into the subspace rift. They enter subspace, as it were, to try to assess what the DMA has done to space and like try to suss out who is behind the DMA. And they find themselves in like basically a vacuum of a vacuum. Like there's just nothing inside the DMA hole. The subspace hole, just it's like corroding everything around it, and it's slowly closing on the ship, but they can't navigate out because they have no points of context. And meanwhile, Zora is becoming sentient more and more, and she's having an existential crisis and so she can't. She's having sort of an ADHD problem. Like she can't get her mind quiet and focus on one thing. And so she just has to, what's the ghost kid's name?
Gray.
Gray, that's right. Gray has to talk Zora through it. And I gotta say, I liked this episode a lot. It's very much a bottle episode, kind of. Like it's all one thing happening, and it felt very episodic. And it didn't, I mean, yes, they're working on the DMA problem, and there's character stuff carrying over, which is the stuff I like. But this had a beginning, middle, and an end. It was like there were goals to achieve. There was a problem. It felt like the world was closing in.
There were some really strong elements of the episode. I liked the theme of focus, because not only is Zora trying to learn how to focus and focus on the correct things, prioritizing her focus. We also had the focus theme hitting with Book, and how Book was trying to focus on the problem at hand rather than on what his maybe hallucinations of his father was dealing with.
Right. What he decided to choose to believe was not a hallucination in the end.
Right. Possibly. Yeah. And we also had the nice little speech from Saru at the end about, focus, and I dig that. I feel that.
Right. Yeah. I loved Saru had a line, and I'm forgetting what it was. It was like the key to that whole thing. He was
talking about focusing on productivity rather than his rage.
That's rage.
For the betterment of everyone.
That line resonated with me a lot. I'm not a rageful person, but
I am.
Yeah. I just kind of took it as any emotion, though. Any emotion that you let overdrive what Saru says there is your ability to focus on the greater good, which is what we should all be doing. That resonated with me, because I do sometimes let certain emotions get in the way of the greater good.
Sure.
And regardless of whether I'm rageful or not, like I think it's a common experience. That hit me hard. I like that line a lot. I meant to write it down, and I did not.
I didn't write anything down for this episode, which is not common for me. I usually write things down. I've had a really busy week with Christmas coming up and everything. I've been running errands every day. Something has come up.
You gotta do what I do, man. Just ignore that Christmas is coming until tomorrow. Right. Which is Christmas Eve. And then I'm going to go buy presents tomorrow.
And I had to get milk for something I'm making for Christmas for my family. And I went and got the milk, and I got the last couple presents, and I got home, and the top of the milk had just like popped off completely, banned and everything. So there was milk all over the car.
Oh no. That is the worst.
It's really bad. And so when you texted me and you were like, let's go in 5, I'm like, no, I'm going downstairs to do this.
Yeah,
Make it 10. I've got to go fix this up real quick.
That sucks, dude.
Because I literally just like threw the milk out of the car and tried to clean up as much as I could when I got home. but like I had a baked potato waiting on me. I was hungry. I hadn't eaten all day. I was hungry.
No, I get it.
Yeah, I was just like worn out and I didn't take notes. So
totally fine. I didn't take many, but I did like this episode a whole lot. I just thought I don't know, as soon as they hit the inside of the subspace and it was silent and the shaking stopped, it went from that very rumble to just dead silence.
Yeah, that was creepy.
It was really creepy. It was really effective. It started the feeling of like the world closing in on them. The one thing I would have enjoyed is I didn't get the sense. I think they should have included a few shots of the sort of corrosive nature of that space getting closer to them, because they say I have a line in there where they're like, it's getting closer faster than we thought it would, but they never actually show us that. And I do think that would have been an effective at making us feel the world is closing in on them. You know what I mean?
I actually disagree, and I liked the fact that we couldn't see it because that makes it scarier. That's why the dark is so scary.
I agree, but what I think would have been effective, this is what I was considering, is just like, you know how they sent out the dot, and then a few minutes later they sent out the flare. If they had continued like every, let's say 5 minutes, or I don't know, they could have just sent us every once in a while, sent out a flare and just seeing it corrode sooner. Like, I think that could have been effective, almost like a fuse, like it's slowly closing in on them.
Well, I feel like they kind of did that anyway.
Definitely once they started hitting the ship, you realize.
Yeah.
But yeah. I just felt there was a minute in the middle where I felt like the tension kind of left because I just had no context.
Yeah. Which to me, see, in my mind, I was thinking like, it makes sense that the Frakes did this because this, to me, a lesser director at all would have made this a super clunker. Because I was not terribly interested in most of the things that were happening. And I at the end of it, I kind of felt a little meh. A little just apathetic towards the entire episode. Though there are several things in the episode I really liked. Like the slowly, the oncoming storm, that they can't see. I dug that.
Yeah, I definitely did too.
I have to admit, the character of Gray is still weighing on me.
I think since he's been corporeal, he has been a lot more like a real person.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. Like, he's just having a lot more, like, there's a lot of self-doubt on his face. He's just not acting nearly like the angelic being that he was before.
Like, my wife said this, and I agree with her. I feel like he has two faces: furrowed brow, sad face, like furrowed brow, frown, and furrowed brow, smile. And he alternates between those two. And if anything, this episode really showcased how useless he is. Because, like, look, man, I've watched a lot of Star Trek. How often has it been that someone is just confined to a room when it's under red alert? He didn't have to stay in that lounge. Like, and he didn't. He wound up, like, going to the bridge at some point to tell Michael the thing that Zora could have told him.
But he does ask the computer, like, what can I do to help? And she's like, seeing as you are not a commissioned officer, you should stay where you are or whatever during.
No. She said nothing is required, is what she said. So
right. Well, I think that was the thing. Like, he's not a Starfleet officer. He doesn't know what he's supposed to do. He's trained to help people corporealize. Like, which I actually really liked what they did with him this episode, even, and I think it'll continue. I think he's going to use his guide training or his guardian. Is that what they're called?
Yeah, the guardian training.
Yeah, I think he's going to use his guardian training to help Zora realize her emotional stability or whatever. I
suspect where they're steering this is with previous issues cropping up on the ship with Culber. I think they're going to wind up making Gray the ship's counselor.
Ooh, that feels like it would be a leap, but possibly.
It absolutely feels like a leap, but it feels like the kind of leap Discovery would take.
I mean, maybe I could see him taking on some. I don't know. Like, I don't know how much a guardian is close to a counselor, because an actual counselor is years of training. I don't know if it would feel weird. That would feel weird. I see where you're going. I think this episode showed that he may pick up some of the slack, like, interpersonally, that Culver is leaving because he isn't able to be the stable, kind of like always saying the right thing guy right now. He needs some time for himself. So like we need another one of those, I guess. And so that may happen, but like I don't think he's officially going to become the ship's counselor anytime soon. Because
I don't think he's going to be a commissioned officer, but I mean, as much as Guinan was a ship's counselor at times,
right?
Like,
sure. No, that's what I mean. He could take that role as like, and then that's the thing. She was not the ship counselor. She was the She was the bartender. Maybe that lounge will become his new place, and he will be the new Guinan.
Oh, absolutely. I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. Like, I do. I think that's what, and knowing them, they might actually have a bit where Michael goes, I believe in you. You could be the official ship's counselor. Anything that goes over your head, Culber can handle. But, I think that's what I feel like they're going.
I don't know about any kind of like official, like, you're going to be having actual patients. Because I think that's, like even just from like a literal real world mental health is important. Like, don't just throw anyone in a psychiatrist's chair or whatever. I don't know. That feels almost offensive if they actually like make him, unless we find out he has the training that we just don't know about yet.
Well, they did lean into the fact that he did mention like once or twice his guardian training.
Right. Sure.
So, they might just be like, hey, well, that counts. And I agree. Absolutely. It will be offensive if they do that. But
honestly, if they explain what guardian training is, because all we know of guardians is they like hang out in the pools and I don't know, what do they do? Rub water on the symbiotes?
They wear robes.
They wear robes.
They do.
Yeah,
true. mine was so much more ridiculous than what you were saying.
The way you inserted it was like you were going to provide something very like poignant. Well, they wear robes. Like I laughed because it was a funny joke. It was a funny and well-timed joke.
I know what I did.
Well, then don't give me shit for laughing. You're creating a bad incentive structure.
Honestly, it was how I was raised. Make you laugh, then make you feel bad for laughing. Take offense to the laughter.
That's no good. No good, sir.
I know. That's why I don't have kids.
You need a Gray. You need to go talk to Gray.
No, I do not. I will take Culber. I know he's overworked, but I'd rather talk to Culber. I'll get to make some little sand structures. It'll be dope.
Get that mandala built.
I'll be like, can you please like lift it up so that I don't have to like hunker down and break my back?
So one thing I gotta say, I understand what they were doing. It seems so insensitive, like to the heart of me insensitive, that this episode opens. Book just lost his entire world.
Mm-hmm.
His entire family is dead.
Yeah.
And he woke up this morning, looked at his partner in the room, and she's building her family tree of a lot of people that are still around because for whatever reason she got to keep her family, even though she jumped 1,000 years in the future or whatever. Like,
and there's her mom. She gets her mom back in the unlikeliest of places.
Exactly. And all of her friends and family and the people, her extended, like whatever. She's making this little family tree, and I was just like, this is the most insensitive shit I've seen a partner do. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Like, he's just lost his entire world, and you're sitting there like going like, look at my family. Aren't they nice?
Yeah. Like, at least wait until he like, goes to brood in his ship for a few hours. Because he does it every day.
Yeah.
Every episode, he's just hanging out in the ship brooding.
It's on the schedule. There's a brooding room, and he's on the sign-up sheet.
Yeah,
but he deserves this brooding. I don't mind his brooding because he just lost his entire planet. But like, I don't know. I just like I understand that they were going for a thing like connecting it to the last episode, and also trying to connect it to the fact that Zora is starting to view these people as family. Like that is all interesting. But man, it was just have anyone else on the ship deliver that rock and then try to make their own family tree, because like her doing it in front of her partner that just lost his whole planet feels so insensitive to me.
Yeah, I agree. That's something. That's definitely
it didn't
a thing.
Take, as soon as she started doing it, I was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? This feels sadistic. Like, what the hell? I was very upset for Bug. And I think he even says something about it after that. He was like, I don't know. He said some line about how, like, something about her family, and I was just like, man, I'm really uncomfortable right now. Like,
he said that he wasn't close to his dad, and he damn sure wouldn't put him on a tree. Right.
Like, even the fact that, like, you're making a thing that's conjuring the memories of his dead family right now, like, and comparing it and contrasting it to yours feels just so bad.
Well, the only thing I would say in Michael's defense that it isn't quite like that, because she kept her family as far as Discovery is concerned, but they were very much focusing on people she's lost on that tree. Georgiou, they were focusing on Spock. Like, yeah, they were not like focused on her.
Oh, she had Tilly on there and Saru and her mom.
Tilly just left.
Sure, but Saru and her mom were also on the thing.
Yeah.
It was just her family, and half of them are still around. I just felt like it was a weird thing to do.
Yeah.
I'm with you. It's not a bad thing to do in, like, general, but, like, the context of doing it right in front of book felt just dark.
I agree with that. It felt a little weird.
The only other problem I have with this episode is, like, the Dot. Okay, the Dot has an onboard camera, right?
That we never see the perspective of. Like, she was like, she literally said, show the Dot onboard camera.
Right.
And it showed, like, maybe, I guess it was like the backward facing camera.
Yeah. No, she says show the onboard camera, and it cuts to a shot of a picture of Discovery as it's leaving, which made sense. But it also has a shot that is apparently part of the onboard camera system of the Dot itself.
Yeah.
But it is a camera that is somehow watching the Dot's entire body, which already makes no sense. And then on top of that, it watched the Dot completely be destroyed, and the camera was still on. I was look.
Yeah.
I
agree.
Show me that from Discovery. Like, that's not the onboard camera. And I get that, like, maybe it wasn't supposed to be, but it was like the camera was riding alongside the Dot, which makes for a much prettier shot. I understand why they would want to do it that way.
Yeah.
But, like, it shouldn't have been that way for it to actually be on their view screen.
No, but to be fair, this isn't a Discovery problem. This is a Star Trek problem.
Sure.
Like, let's keep in mind that in the menagerie, when the Telosians are feeding that footage to Starfleet, they're just showing, like, the Enterprise flying through space.
Yeah, but that's like a clip show problem, really.
That is a clip show problem.
That's all well and good, but we're talking about the year 2021, and when people understand things a little better. Yeah. And we're talking about a person on the television show saying, pull up the onboard camera. Like,
oh, I agree. Yeah.
It's a different thing than going, like, let us show you this documentary that we made about whatever.
I mean, hey, Star Trek 4, they're reviewing the destruction of the Enterprise from Star Trek 3. Where the hell was the camera?
Oh, yeah.
Floating outside of the Enterprise, watching it blow up.
It is for sure always a problem. I'm not saying it's not. But in this case, we're not even talking about a clip. Again, that's a clip show problem. It's like using footage from a previous thing to show just for saving money's sake. Like, and that's a thing people do. But, like, it's not great, but it happens. But this is like making the decision to
they went out of their way to do it.
Well, they built from scratch and called it the onboard camera, and then showed it in a way that was completely not possible that it was an onboard camera. Those are my only two negatives. I just had to throw those two out because that was the insensitivity of the tree and the onboard camera bothered me. I feel like a real nerd right now being like, the onboard camera could have never gotten that shot, but it bothered me.
I have a possible problem that's not either of those things. And I think it's just confusion. Why they don't send a probe no more, man? Like, they just send a dot. Is a dot as good as a probe? You remember how, like, in the old stuff, like...
Yeah, they would, like, prepare a probe. And
because I was thinking, like, that a probe, like, before they went into the giant space vagina... I was thinking like, hey, why don't you send a probe so you know that it ain't going to destroy you and eat your whole ship? And then they didn't do it. They flew through it and then they hung out there for a while and then they were like, send a dot. And I'm like,
yeah,
why not a probe?
Why not a dot in the first place into the thing? I think the idea is they're crossing into subspace. I don't know. They could have, there are a lot of things in this episode that could have used a line to like, just
explained it a little bit,
yeah, or like why we can't do a different thing than we're doing right now.
I mean, I guess like after having seen the whole episode, like possibly the dot didn't have the shields that would let them go through the barrier,
right?
Because because Discovery went through without shields and it pretty much destroyed the entire hull,
right?
So I imagine a dot wouldn't have survived that.
Yeah, but what about that scene? Like.
That was a fantastic scene.
The ship being destroyed and Zora feeling it, like, oh, I feel parts of me. They're burning away. Like, oh man.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. And Stu Little wrote in and said that there for a second he thought they were going to resolve the Calypso issue.
Yeah, me too. Especially when they all ended up in the buffer. I was like, wait, are we jumping forward to Calypso time now? Is that what's about to happen?
Because that'd be crazy.
That'd be really crazy to jump from this whole DMA season, just to not even resolve it, to just jump forward to the future and then be like, oh, well, the Federation you were rebuilding, it's now fallen apart again. And like, because the DMA ate the world. And
I thought that might be where they were going.
Yeah, for those of you who may not be catching, Calypso was the short they put out a couple years ago, where Zora, with the similar music taste and everything, was living, I guess, about 70 years ahead of now in the show, and she's just living by herself, and she meets a traveler who comes
and falls in love with him.
Yeah, falls in love with the traveler and tries to convince him to stay and stuff, but he leaves. Zora. I like Zora a lot. I really enjoyed the whole storyline with Zora this episode.
Yeah, and I'm very interested to see how they get from here to where Calypso is. Like, we got a couple people who like to, just kind of lob comments at us and about how they've forgotten Calypso. I don't think they have. I think it very much seems like they're pushing towards that future.
Especially with Zora. I mean, like, she even developed the visual representation that she uses in that episode, in this very episode.
I swear to God, man, I try not to focus on it when we're doing the cast and stuff, but with every episode, with a hope speech about the Federation, I just think about the Vidreish and think about, like, all of, like, how that's not going to hold up for a minute. Like, that's it. Yeah, that's just going to fall apart.
It almost feels like, especially with all of them entering the pattern buffer, like, I really thought for sure that we were just like, oh, well, what I thought was about to happen was that as they were leaving the thing, Zora, against the captain's orders, was about to beam her into the pattern buffer.
Yeah, I thought that was going to happen
too. And then it would be like 70 years later. Like, that's seriously, I seriously thought about that. And man, I would be down. Like, they never solved the DMA and the world fell apart and people blame the Federation. So, like, they're the Vidreish now because people, whatever.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, the Federation came back together and they made all these promises to us, and then they still let the DMA eat our world, eat our universe.
Yeah. By the way, loving the first mention of the galactic barrier since, like, TOS, man.
Oh, really? I thought they've mentioned the galactic barrier a few times.
No, man. I think it was I don't know. It was the original series, but
I really think we got something in, like, Voyager where they mention the galactic barrier, or they like go to it, or they go somewhere near it in one of the Q episodes or something. I don't know.
Oh,
I could have sworn there's a galactic barrier episode somewhere in one of the Star Treks.
Well, there are two barriers.
Right. Around the outside and the inside.
Right. And I've seen a couple people, talking about if it could be the creature from Star Trek V, and I'm like, no, that was the Great Barrier at the center of the galaxy. It's easy to remember. One was blue, one was pink. We're talking about the pink one that made Gary Mitchell a psychic god.
Right.
Telekinetic asshole. So, that's another one of those things, like one of those little things where Star Trek fans like to go like complain about Star Trek V, where they're like, Sulu says no ship has ever survived, but he was in the ship that survived. And I'm like, no, that was a different one.
Different barrier.
Different barrier, baby.
But yeah, I could have sworn there was another time where the galactic barrier has been at least mentioned, but maybe visited.
Yeah,
and maybe it was a different barrier, but I don't know.
I did not remember it being mentioned. Yeah, it was God. It was one of the original series episodes. I know they was mentioned in By Any Other Name.
Okay.
Which it was the original series where those aliens came from the Andromeda galaxy, I think, and they were turning people into 16-sided die.
What?
Yeah, man. I mean, they were
don't recall that one.
They were like foam cube things, but they looked like, like D&D dice.
All right. That's weird.
That was the one where like they had like turned themselves into humans kind of, and they were like all crammed into the human, corporeal form, and the woman goes to Kirk and she's like, "What is kiss?" The Kelvins. Yeah. Anyway, I can go back and rattle about all that crap, but yeah, I don't think they have mentioned it.
Okay. You very well could be right. I don't see it on Memory Alpha anywhere other than TOS and Discovery. Cool.
I didn't even think about doing that.
Yeah, I just searched Great Barrier on there. Yeah. And it's looking like you are correct. Well, it says something about the USS Voyager. USS Voyager is stated to have started its journey home from a distance approximately 50,000 light years from the galactic center.
The
this
galactic
would have
center
placed it well within the barrier based on the earlier depictions on page 11. Okay, well, that's talking about a book too. I think it's talking about a book.
Yeah, in Star Trek Star Charts. I'm looking at it here now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's some more information on it here. The Q is mentioned here.
Yeah, that was in the Q Continuum novels, though.
Okay.
I love the Galactic Barrier stuff. It's stupid as shit, but I love it. It's one of those things that, like, once again, places Star Trek firmly in my mind into the sci-fi fantasy realm, and I like just a little bit of it could be in my Star Trek, rather than just like, I don't know, trying to be strictly science.
Right. Well, what you were saying about it being like kind of stupid and sort of silly, like it does seem like the barrier itself seems like a almost childish concept in space.
Mm-hmm.
But it is in canon, and it's interesting that Discovery is deciding to go there now. Like, are we gonna try to go to the galactic barrier? Are we gonna try to, like, with the spore drive, it has felt a little like cheating. And when Book says, I thought this was going to be an enemy we knew. But, because then you're like, well, yeah, it's so far into the future. Is the whole galaxy explored? Like, it go to new worlds and new civilizations. What are you even doing? How can you do that this far in the future? How does universe exploration work when you have a spore drive, Because we've never really gotten to that point. And this episode, more than a lot of others in Discovery, felt so much like a classic Star Trek episode, and the fact that it was directed by Jonathan Frakes makes sense. It's like the crew on the bridge solving a problem. It just felt very much like they even mentioned how it's a science mission, and like even though they're a science vessel, it feels like they haven't had that many of those.
Yeah. Well, I mean, every episode they're just trying to figure out what the hell the DMA is.
Right, or the Red Angel, or the, whatever. There's always some overarching problem that's keeping them from doing like individual missions. And this one felt very much like we're the crew, we're on the bridge, we're doing our thing, and like it felt good. Felt very much like Star Trek. Much like more like traditional Star Trek than anything else on Discovery has.
To be fair, traditionally in Starfleet, there's like 2 or 3 ships who get to just go week to week on missions, and then like whatever they find, they tell Starfleet, and Starfleet sends other ships to hang out for years and study one specific planet. Or like, I mean, like I think what was it in Star Trek 6? Sulu said that they were wrapping up like a year or 2 years or something of just studying gaseous anomalies. Like,
right.
How boring is that shit? So they're just like, all right, Discovery, you get to go check this thing out, this DMA thing, and we'll throw Enterprise and Voyager in there and let them do it as well. But from time to time, in between doing their other weekly shit. It is. It's like, in a lot of ways, I feel like Lower Decks has opened my mind a little bit to it, because it's like,
right.
Yeah, you're right. There has to be the second contact crew, because otherwise, like, Picard would just be hanging out with the same species every week, like trying to stabilize their government with knowledge of the Federation. And I'm like, yeah, no, there would be some other cat who had to come in and do that. For sure.
Man. Yeah, but all that said, like, this felt more like that. This felt more like that traditional Starfleet crew. And part of it is the fact that Burnham, these shows, generally the main protagonist of these shows is the captain. It always feels like, and Burnham has not been that. She was like the mutineer who slowly became the like whatever, the helper, then the first officer. And it's like, now she is the captain of this vessel, and it just gives the show a similar shape to other Star Trek series. And I dug it. Yeah. I felt more at home in this than I normally do with a lot of these shows. Or seasons or whatever. A couple lines I loved this episode was like, I really like, both were Stamets. When Book's like, I can take the spore drive and you can analyze the data, and he says, I suppose now's as good a time as any to learn to delegate. It was good. And then when Book had been shocked and they're trying to figure out what to do next, he's like, well, what do we Burnham says, well, what do we do now? And he's like, now science. It's just cheesy but fun.
Yeah, it felt very Twitter. Yeah, and now science.
Yeah, it totally did. It felt very social media meme.
Yeah, I'm excited to see like if they actually do somebody outside of the Milky Way galaxy.
Yeah,
we know that like the floating blunts from the original series that have the
yes, I know the ones you're talking about.
Yeah. With Matt Decker. Why can't I remember names right now? I'm so out of it. Sorry, everyone. The Doomsday Machine.
Yeah.
The Doomsday Machine. They said that it came from outside of our galaxy. By any other name, we've got, the Kelvins from outside of our galaxy. Like, I love it when Star Trek goes, hey, by the way, there are other galaxies out there, and every once in a while, something comes in, and it ain't ever good.
Well, that seems to be the case with this time as well.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things they said a couple of episodes ago, like, what is this thing doing? And like, they're like, well, maybe it's preparing space for something else. And that's a creepy thought. Like, whatever this is, maybe it's like terraforming the galaxy,
Absolutely.
Terraforming is the wrong word, but you get my drift.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
I'm very much excited to see if there's more to if there's more to that, and they really go like, Star Trek is so expansive already. There's so many races and so many places to visit. Oh, the places you'll go, but like, what if we find out about a completely new galaxy to explore? Like what if the Discovery's jumping to coordinates outside of the galaxy and we're meeting completely new races and people, and that could be very interesting.
I will bet you anything. As soon as they were like, look, the mycelial network is completely different inside of this void, I was thinking, what'll work good for that? That next generation spore drive they've been developing. They've continually hinted at.
Yeah, for sure.
With that dick doctor with his neck tat.
Yep, Tarkin.
Yeah, Tarkin. When Zora asked to create her own tree, like they really should have just like at the height of that like majesty, the drama of that moment, they should have just had Book walk in and be like, for Pete's sake. Damn it. Even that bloody computer has a family. Oh.
It's so sad. And why would they do that to Book? They're like, it's like, now I want to see like, well, Zora did it. Let's have the whole crew get together and let's design a tree of your current living family. Just like everyone.
Book, even the computer has a family. I hate you all. All right. I like how in my head, like, Book has just become like friggin' Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins. He's like, I hate you all, I do.
Book the chimney sweep.
Chimney, chiray.
I really did like this episode a lot. And I guess we should give a little service to the whole Book's father thing. What I thought was interesting is at the end of the whole thing, there's just a lot in there. And if this, I'm believing the scientists who say this is all his subconscious, he's having these, so this is all in his head. So this is all coming from him. And there's a lot of awful stuff in there. When the dad's like, because you love her, he's like basically calling him whipped. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's like, you're doing all this stuff because you love this woman. You've lost, everything that makes you a child of Qui-Gon or like Qui-Gon. Lost everything that makes you a child of Qui-Gon.
I think one of those was a Star Wars character. You said.
Okay, it was close. Qui-Gon Jinn.
No.
I think that is what confused me, though. He's saying these awful things, and they're very toxically masculine things. There's a lot of like, not necessarily toxically masculine, but toxically loner. Like you're just like, no, you need to go off and do your own thing. You could do this without her. Like she's just controlling you, and like you need to get out and do your own thing. And it's really a lot of toxicity there. And at the end of the episode, when he says, "I choose to believe this is you," because I want to believe that my family still can exist somewhere, Yeah. The thing that resonated with me, I was like, wait, do you? Is that why? Or do you not want to believe those words came from yourself?
Well, there's that, but I feel like I loved the ambiguity, by the way, of whether or not he was actually his dad. Right. And that's another thing I love about Star Trek is that they're not trying to necessarily like supplant the idea of spirituality at all times, so I love this. There's this notion and there's this moment where his dad tells him he did what he had to do because the Emerald Chain forced him to do it. Yeah. And there's a look on Book's face because up to that point Book had been saying, you're not real, you're a part of my mind, blah blah blah. But there was a look on Book's face where it looked like he was thinking, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was waiting on that to come out of his mouth, and it didn't. And I was like, wait, maybe I don't know if this is real knowledge or this is. Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Headcanon?
Yeah, is he headcanoning his own childhood?
Is he trying to make his dad better than he was?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that was shaping out.
But after that, he said he chose to believe it was him. Right. And I thought that was an interesting choice.
Yeah, that's true. But the thing that resonated with me, though, is the idea that he's like making that choice because he doesn't want to believe that the awful things his dad's been saying about his relationship could have been coming from his own head, you know?
Right.
Yeah. It's all, man, it's a good episode. Great episode. I like just for the like real intense, nature of, you know, trying to get out of that anomaly or whatever.
Yeah.
It was just really well done.
I'll be honest, man. You are selling me on it just a little bit. Like I'm coming back around on it.
Oh, well, good. Yeah, I didn't know you were down on it.
Well, I said that bit about how I was kind of apathetic on a lot of fronts.
Right.
I like a lot of it.
yeah, I like a lot of it too. It has a lot of things going for it. Like the Jonathan Frakes direction really made that like the tense bottle show nature of like it's just them stuck on the ship. That was cool. Them stuck on the ship with the world caving in on them, you know, that was neat. But then you also have the reveal of the Great Barrier stuff, and like that's like got me speculating about the future of the show and like the future of the Star Trek universe in general. Like that's a really cool turn. But then I really like every bit of character work from Zora to Book. Like I just like those are I guess the two big ones that had big movement. And I just really liked their character.
And really, that bit at the end with the freaking front of the bridge on fire,
right?
Like, and
that was epic. That was, like, yeah, this felt almost like movie level, and I almost felt like there should have been greater consequences for this episode because of that. Like, which I mean, like you said, Stu wrote in talking about the idea that it could be leading into what's that episode called? What's that short called?
Calypso.
Thank you. This could be leading into Calypso because like it really could have been. And I was watching it thinking the same thing. I was like, man, we got a fully realized Zora. We got, you know, the ship is burning up, the whole crew's in the pattern buffer. By the way, the pattern buffer thing, I've been saying that move for like 10 years watching Star Trek. There have been a ton of situations where I was like, why don't I just hide everybody in the pattern buffer? Another thing, like, one of the things I think I've brought it up on this show, but the evacuation of Romulus, I said, like, you don't have enough ships. You should just build really badass pattern buffers, go out to Romulus, pick up like 10 million people on one ship and fly them away, right? Like that would be like create evacuation ships that hold people in pattern buffers. Like that would be awesome. And like everybody said, it's not possible. And sure, they only probably had to stay in the pattern buffers for a short time, but still, I was like, you know, I wanted that to be a thing.
Now, I don't know if this is because it's an old ass ship that's been refit, or if this is they still have this problem in this century. But you know, Zora did say like is dangerous. Like, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. And you remember what happened to poor Franklin?
What happened to Franklin?
That was the guy in Relics when Scotty and Franklin were in the transporter buffer
and
on
Franklin
the Dyson sphere. Franklin didn't make it. His pattern degraded too much.
Well, that's the thing is like, and in this episode, this is the distant future, so maybe their pattern buffers are way better now after the refit.
Yeah, they have to be, but she still said that there was like a
great risk.
Great risk, yeah.
That was funny that they made that an amorphous risk. It's like I can't guarantee we can hold that many patterns for that long, or if we don't get pulled out in time, you know, we'll start to degrade, or like it wasn't anything specific. It was like it's not without its risks, but it's the only way. Like I just thought it was a funny line. It's like. Just have to make it clear that this is a risky thing we're doing so that in the future we can't always use this as an out.
Right. You have to be ambiguous with Trekkies, man. You can't.
I know.
Like, because I still remember the people bitching on the message boards back in the day when they were like, on Enterprise, they were like, we don't transport anything but non-organic matter. And then like 10 episodes later, they were like, well, I guess we'll have to try this thing where we beam somebody up. Because it's the only way. And then like 3 episodes after that, they're just like beaming like mofos, dude. Yeah. They're just like, oh, it seemed to work, so no harm, no foul. Let's go for it.
Yeah, but that really lost those wonderful gel rub down scenes, you know?
Right.
Really.
Oh, we all enjoyed those.
We all enjoyed those. Yeah, for sure. All right. Such a funny thing. Like, and as a young kid, I was like, I was very much in like a Christian culture, and like, not sex positive in any way, and like the idea of like TV's just over sexualized. They're trying to over sexualize everything, and there's still some of that in all of our culture. And watching that episode when I was like, whatever, young, and like, oh, they got a Maxim model as their new Vulcan, and she's like braless, being rubbed down with gel in the first episode, and I was just like, this just devil's TV. Just have to sexualize everything. And these days I'm like, I mean, yeah, that was a little overly sexualized. Also, nice.
What I think is funny is like the extreme tilt of the pendulum, like growing up we were watching that, and we had like the very, very Christian people in our lives saying like, that's so over sexualized, you shouldn't be watching that. And now I'm like, as a Star Trek fan on Twitter, I have the very, very liberal people who are saying, how dare they have that sexualization in there? They're demeaning her.
Right. It's the opposite. It's the opposite of the spectrum that ends in the same place.
But yeah, it's still the same. It's still the same
complaint that like that's over sexualized, and it's almost like, well, it's sexualization without agency is the real problem on one side, and one side is like. And honestly, the other side of the coin is sexualization with agency is the problem. And so just like this, yeah. Well, she can't be in a sexual situation that she wants to be in. That's inappropriate.
Yeah. Which, looking back on some of the stuff with Enterprise, I'm amazed that they got away with just that, because like apparently that was a thing that the studio was like, you got to sex it up. Make it more interesting than Voyager, because Voyager was losing ratings.
Yeah.
And then, like, the studio also wanted them to literally have boy bands playing on the ship every week as aliens.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is the time period where, like, shortly after they had The Rock on the Voyager fighting 7 of 9 or whatever.
Yeah. And I'm still like, where are the Voyager DVD sets that have like The Rock's name on it because he was on one season? You know how like when you go to Walmart or whatever, there's like Blu-rays and DVDs of like old movies and Jennifer Aniston's in it for like 5 minutes, but they're like Jennifer Aniston in, Leprechaun 7.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Just like a big picture of The Rock on the Star Trek season, whatever the hell it was. Just The Rock in Star Trek Voyager season 5.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, yeah, it's a good time. It's a good time. But neither here nor there.
Not really.
That's I guess that's all I got about this episode, though. Anything else you got?
Well, after a couple of those statements I made, I do want to point out that I do think Troy's and 7 of 9 and T'Pol's uniforms were ridiculous.
Oh, for sure. And
a bit gross.
Yeah. For sure. And it's like I said, you just need, if you're gonna have over sexualization is gonna be part of your content. You need a broader perspective on that sexualization and like agency throughout, and a broader exploration of what sexuality means, not just objectification, like not just turning the woman into a thing to be. She still needs to be a character, and there still needs to be a reason for it, Right. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with a scene being sexual. It just needs to like it's good for sex in film to be more real and be about what sex is actually about, like connecting and the emotional side of it, like really try to like get the scope of it and not just having Trip like have to get to Paul's back or whatever. Like it's just,
I was going to say, in fairness of Enterprise, every man on that show that wasn't Dr. Phlox was hot as shit.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
They all had to get rubbed down in the thing. And
oh yeah, I just watched because I had to remember how bad it actually was, because it's been a long time. So I just pulled up the decontamination scene, or one of them, and Trip was on there, very sexy man, doing his thing. But she got to his legs and they're just hairy as crap. It was really funny, like rubbing gel on these really hairy legs.
Yeah. Yeah. But look, to be fair, I am on Trek Twitter, and I have seen many a lady thirsting over gifs of those scenes.
Yeah, well, it's really funny too, because those scenes are not inherently sexual.
No. In fact, it reminds me of the Martin Freeman scenes from Love Actually, where it's like they actually do often play it very like uncomfortable. Actually, that's the thing, is it's not that uncomfortable. It reminds me more of the shower scenes from Starship Troopers.
Yeah. There's nudity here, but it's the future. We're evolved past, like, I know you're looking at T'Pol's nipples, but we're not.
Right.
Because it gives you something to strive for.
Well, then later on, of course, you get, or like pretty early on, really, you've got, what was it, Reed and Tucker stuck in that shuttlecraft, and Reed's like, T'Pol's got a cute little bum.
Wow, I don't remember that. That's funny.
They kind of bonded over the fact that they both think T'Pol is kind of attractive, even though they're like, well, she's an annoying Vulcan and we hate her, but she's kind of cute.
Yeah, that's funny. Oh man, well, buddy, we're hitting almost an hour.
Man. I
gotta edit this thing, so we're gonna get it shuffle off here. But you guys, thanks for joining us on the Star Trek universe. We'll be back next week to talk more Discovery. Only a few weeks away from finishing off Prodigy, I think, and getting to Picard. Like I'm pumped, man. We got some good stuff coming. I'm pumped to see what happens with the DMA, honestly.
Yeah, me too. I don't want to lie to the listeners here. I'm going to be out of town this coming week.
Oh yeah.
Like the day after Christmas, I leave town. Okay. I'll be gone for several days, but it shouldn't be too off. We should be able to get to it, as far as I'm concerned.
The good thing is we're hitting this one the day it drops, so hopefully, even if you leave town middle of the week, I don't know how long you're going away for, but
a week.
Oh yeah, we can probably get it midweek next week. Then that'd be great.
Yeah. Cool.
I like it. Well, then we'll be back soon, guys.
All right.
Have a good trip, Dave.
I'll try to, man.
Yeah. Where are you heading off to, or do you not want to say in case rabid listeners chase you around like you're the Beatles?
All right. Well, listen, Stu.
Listen, listeners. I mean, listener.
Listen, Stu in Glasgow. I don't want you to leave your country and follow me to North Carolina. But no, I think we'll be fine.
All right. Well, have fun, bud.
Yeah, man. I'll give it a shot.
Sweet. Well, thanks, everybody. We are Star Trek Universe. Jolan True.
Live long and prosper.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.